How you going, man?
Hey, John, how are you, mate?
Good, man. Last episode of the year before we all knock off for Christmas and holidays and New Year's and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was just funny listening to your experience being on hold earlier today, John.
Yeah.
25 minutes at Toto Africa. There you go.
On the ANZ Bank hold. So they got someone smart over there because I was heaps relaxed when I came off hold. I swear to God, I could have been on. You know those situations where you're on hold for an hour and you're like, I was on hold for an hour. I would have been like, here you go, man. Bit of Toto.
Looking forward to our honesty segment later, John. It'll be an interesting one.
Oh, for sure, man.
Your sports version of Donald Trump is going to be our topic, so that'll be.
There's some obvious ones, but
yes.
There's also some not so obvious ones, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we always kick off with cricket at the moment because cricket's the game in the world, and there's some results in the Big Bash with some people winning and whatever. But honestly, nobody cares. And there's actually some news stories this week or this episode about that. The big news in cricket this week was the IPL auction happened, and Mitchell Starc has managed to earn himself $4.42 million.
Yeah, that's just huge money, John. Just an insane amount of money. Good luck to Mitchell Starc. He'd taken a bit of a break from the IPL for a number of years to concentrate on his commitments with Australia, but I think Cricket Australia have encouraged their players to go in the IPL next year as a way of warming up for the 2020 World Cup. So Stark's signed up for it and he's cashed in, John, $4.42 million. Pat Cummins also cashed in with $3.67 million there, John. So
yeah, it would be nice.
Huge dollars.
It'd be nice if Cricket Australia encouraged all these guys to also jump into the Big Bash League.
Yeah, it would, wouldn't it?
Yeah, to prepare for the T20 World Cup.
Yeah, it absolutely would.
Because then we'd actually care about what the results were. I think the Thunder won for the first time this year. I don't know. I don't care. But Travis Head also got a good deal. Yes,
he's cashed in there, John. Just trying to think. I think it was $1.22 million for Travis Head, but not so much. Not so lucky for Josh Hazlewood and Steve Smith.
Yeah,
both unable to land a contract there, John. So, well done to Travis Head. Same with, as we said earlier, Mitchell Starc and Pat Cummins.
Yeah,
they've really cashed in a big way, John. There are actually some people in the world who can afford Sydney property, John. It's IPL cricketers.
Yeah, those three guys. They can buy a one-bedroom flat in Penrith now. But they'll be paying it off for 30 years because that's just the deposit at this rate. But
exactly.
I think Steve Smith stayed behind in India for that Who Cares Cup series for a couple of games, first and second game or something, to try and prove that he would be of value for the IPL was the rumour, and in the end he kind of went quite poorly, and the fact that nobody wanted to pick him up kind of reflects on that, yeah?
Yeah, it just didn't happen for Steve Smith at the auction, yeah. Disappointing. He's actually done pretty well for the Sixers in the BBL, John. But I think he can still be. I think they can still be picked up at a later date.
Yeah,
these players.
It's not direct or something.
Yeah, it's not. This is not the be all and end all. But you'd have to think the big money signings have gone in the auction. I think the ones who missed out at the auction, they're not going to be taking the big money. I wouldn't have thought.
Well, it's something like, I don't really know because I don't follow IPL because it's IPL, not big Australian, not APL. But my vague understanding of it is they have the salary cap, and then they have a whole bunch of money that they spend at auction to try and get the superstars, and then whatever they have left they go and sign people for. So it shows that Steve Smith and Josh Hazlewood are no longer considered superstars in auction.
So they're not going to be getting the 4.42 mil or 3.67 mil that Stark and Cummins landed. So.
Probably the few 100,000 instead, because it is a short tournament. It's only 4
I think it's 2 months max. It's somewhere between 6 weeks and 2 months, I believe.
So it's good. Like Mitchell Starc getting paid $1 million what is it, a fortnight?
It's not bad, is it? Not bad at all,
I can
John.
deal with that.
Yeah. But well done to them. Good luck to them. There's someone willing to pay them that money. So we're not like those, social media, social justice warriors, John, who think that, nobody should be paid over, $100,000 a year. If people are good enough to earn that money, then, good luck to them.
We got some of that in the social media blower-uppers section
Yes.
later on in the podcast as well. Discussions on rugby league players and what they should get paid. And some more, still on the IPL, so Dave Warner, ex-captain of the Sunrisers Hyperbad team, has been blocked by the team on Instagram.
Yeah, Sunrisers...
I just started laughing.
Sunrisers Hyderabad. So he actually was looking to just congratulate some of his teammates, David Warner. That's all he was doing on social media. And then he discovered that they blocked him. They blocked him on Instagram. So Warner joined the Sunrisers in 2014, went on to captain the team for a number of years before he was controversially dumped as captain in 2021, and then he was axed entirely at the end of the same season. Then he moved to the Delhi Capitals in 2022. He said he was disappointed that they didn't explain to him why he was dropped as captain. So there you go, John. That's a bit rough. Blocking somebody completely from... isn't that reserved for people who abuse people on social media?
Yeah.
It's not really reserved for someone who used to play for the team.
You have to have block function when you publish an application on the Apple Store for the purpose of preventing harassment and abuse. Blocking someone just because you can block them is actually I think it's the ultimate in childish tantrum. To block someone just because what you can also do? You can unfollow them. If you don't want to, you block them so they can't see you.
Yeah.
How wrapped up in yourself do you have to be to think that it matters? I don't know. I could look it up. How many people Dave Warner actually follow on Instagram?
Seems very spiteful, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's
very
what I mean.
Spiteful.
It's the ultimate tantrum. Oh no, I'm having a big conniption on my Instagram, so we'll skip that. It's like a tantrum, childish. Take my ball and go home, chuck the toys out of the cot kind of thing to do. Really it is. It's such a spiteful little childish thing to do. And it's bizarre that a cricket team would do it. Surely the social media manager for the Sunrisers isn't doing it. Someone's gone to the social media and gone, block David Warner! He's mean or something. And especially if he hasn't, like I said, if he hasn't harassed or abused them, there's just no need to block. I don't want to have anything to do with Dave Warner, so I unfollow him. It's the block. It's so childish. It's such a childish tantrum chucking baby thing to do, to block someone who's not harassing or you have to have the block. There's no reason not to have a block. You have to be able to block people who are harassing or abusing you. But just blocking Dave Warner because he's your ex-team captain is bizarre.
David Warner, he just seems to be one of those players who just seems to attract drama.
If they've done it to him, you'd have to wonder who else. There's no way of knowing who they've blocked. Only you can know who you've blocked on your account. I can go to Dave Warner, I can see everyone that he follows, everyone that follows him, but I can't see everyone he's blocked. So who else have they blocked?
What do they block all the players who used to play for them and just don't anymore?
Are they that much of petty little children that they would do something like that? It's just a bizarre thing. And you got to feel for Dave Warner. He obviously doesn't care. He just thinks it's bizarre, which it is.
It's pretty ordinary, John. Incidentally, Warner, he wasn't available for auction on Tuesday. And he's going to be retiring from Test cricket at the end of this Pakistan series. The SCG New Year's Test will be his last test. Yeah,
I think I'm there on day 3. I think.
Nice one.
And so, I saw you put this down, I moved it up a little bit. You think Stark's IPL deal is the beginning of the end for Test cricket?
Yeah, John, I just think, this $4.42 million for a 2-month 2020 event. The problem here, John, is if this keeps up, well, we're going to get a situation where, well, we're already seeing it, John. Really, there's only 3 countries who are interested in Test cricket at the moment: Australia, England, and India. The other countries, you're starting to wonder, what's the incentive for them anymore to even play Test cricket? When they play it, there's nobody in the crowd. They can make a lot more money playing 2020 cricket, these players. You just feel as though the IPL is just getting closer and closer to, if not killing off Test cricket, making it more and more difficult for Test cricket and really just minimising any sort of foothold that Test cricket could have. Because, John, the issue for me, it seems to be, what incentive for those countries outside of those 3? What incentive is there now to even bother playing Test cricket?
Money. That's so.
There's just there's not as much though as in these 2020 leagues.
I'm just looking it up now. So, as of last year, the average pay for an Australian Test cricketer in the 24-player squad is $951,000. Right. That's for the year, $951,000. So yeah, like
that's for the Australian players. Yeah.
So Mitchell Starc can get paid $951,000 for the year of Test cricket and play around 10 to 12 tests over the course of the year. Or he can go and play in the IPL for 8 weeks and get paid almost 5 times as much.
And that's one of the countries we're talking about where Test cricket's still a big deal.
Yeah.
There's only 3 left. And that's one of the countries, Australia is one of those countries where Test cricket is still a big deal. So you imagine that scenario for a South African player, a New Zealand player, a Pakistani player, a Sri Lankan player. Just imagine they're not going to be getting $951,000 for 12 months of Test cricket, those players.
Onwards with that, just once again showing how why the BBL doesn't work is the highest paid BBL player is on $420,000. So you're going to get paid $420,000 to play in the BBL, or you can get paid. Mitchell Starc will get paid 10 times that to play.
So you can see why these players would be skipping the BBL, given it's over Christmas and New Year, and given the money is 1/10 of the money in the IPL.
Yeah. So yes, because you use Mitchell Starc versus the 420,000 because that's Mitchell Starc is now the highest paid player, and the highest paid player in the BBL is 1/10. So you can use it on a sliding scale. It's obviously not a precise science, but you can easily say that everyone in the BBL is getting paid 1/10 of their equivalent in the IPL based on that single statistic. The good news is Dave Warner, after he's retired, he has said that he will be playing for the Thunder.
Yeah, that is some good news.
Yeah, so Dave Warner's going to go to the Thunder and finish out the BBL season after his retirement, which is nice.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, at least he's willing to go play BBL. Because on that, Tim Payne had a bit of a blow up actually. Because some people in the media, myself included, and you as well, we can say we're in the media. Have discussed that these Test players should play in the BBL. They should be encouraged more and they should want to play. They shouldn't be rested so much. The bowlers are only going to bowl 4 hours, 4 overs, sorry. They're only going to be out there for an hour. Realistically, it was 15 minutes batting. And so there's no reason why they couldn't play a BBL match and then go play in the Test and come back 5 days later and continue with the BBL. So Tim Payne's had a big blow up and said they shouldn't have to do that. It's a huge ask for players playing a Test match, a 5-dayer, then flying somewhere and playing the next day. There's so many variables in cricket compared to these these other sports where it's totally controlled, he says. I don't know what that means.
Okay, so he's talking about a player having to play a Test and then flying somewhere and playing the next day. Well, I mean, we're not specifically saying that, right? Yeah. He's sort of put this hypothetical together where it sounds very difficult. We never said that they should be flying there playing the next day. We're talking about the games that are on 4 or 5 days before it, where you got plenty of time to fly interstate, fly to where you need to go to play a Test. it could even be 2 days before it. It could even be 2 days after it. So he's talking about, if there was a game on the next day. How often really is that scenario going to pop up, John, where the players in the test team just happen to have a BBL game the very next day where they have to fly into state? So, not very often.
Because the example we used was Steve Smith played for the Sixers, and then he didn't play in the second game on the Monday when the test match was starting on the Thursday.
Yes.
He could have played on Monday and then flew down to Perth on Tuesday.
And there were other players. It might have been Nathan Lyon, I think.
Yeah, Nathan Lyon.
Might have been, Nathan Lyon. I think he was rested from a game that might have been on a Saturday, I think, with the test match not starting until the Thursday.
Adam Zampa was rested even though he wasn't playing.
And he's not even in the test side. But even with Nathan Lyon, all right, Saturday to Thursday, that's a 5-day buffer. Plenty of time to play the game and get there for the test match.
Then the schedule was to finish on 18th, and yes, the BBL games did start on the 19th, restart on the 19th. So you could have hypothetically had some players in the test whose teams in the BBL were playing the next day. But that's the ones that they should be resting, right? It's like when if there was a State of Origin game on Wednesday, they don't want the players in State of Origin going and playing on Thursday. But some of them will back up 3 days later, and you cannot tell me that it's harder to back up in rugby league than it is in cricket.
Yeah,
this thing of there's so many variables in cricket compared to these other sports where it's totally controlled is nonsense.
But the bowlers bowl 4 overs, John.
Yeah,
in a 2020 game. So, and batsmen, the most they could be out there for is 20 overs. The absolute most. That's if they bat the whole innings.
1 hour and 15 minutes.
And they never bat the whole innings.
There's never been somebody who does. I'm sure of it. There's never been somebody who batted the whole innings. And even if they did, it's an hour.
Even if they did, it's 20 overs for a batsman.
So it's
not even half of an ODI innings.
I know that playing a lot of sport is hard, no matter the sport. Nobody who doesn't play the sport can understand the rigor and the toll it has on your body. But I always have this thing with sport where you can analyse the the toll it has on your body and how hard it is by how many games or matches the players can participate in per year, right? The extreme is combat sports. The average is boxers and MMA with striking is 2 per year. That's the average. Right? Yeah. And then the commissions have suspension periods if you get concussed and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The most is 5 in professional. In lower level kickboxing and stuff, they might have 79 fights a year, but they're crazy. That's professional, right?
Yeah.
Rugby League is like 24 games a year, and they have to have a week break in between. Man, in cricket, they play, and then 2 days later they play again. They have 9 games in a 6-week period. They can. If Tim Payne wants to have this tanty, then the players shouldn't have played so quickly in the one-day World Cup that just happened. They had games 2 or 3 days after each other.
Yeah. John, baseballers play 164 games in a season.
Yeah.
They play every day.
Yes.
Pitch every day. And I know pitchers might get rotated, but the batters, they play every day.
Yeah.
So if cricket wants to aim up and be more of a professional sport like baseball is, well, they need to start. This is a thing, John. What do they want the BBL to be? Because if the test players don't play in the BBL is just going to turn into the Sheffield Shield in a couple of years.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Where there's 5 people in the crowd.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It has been for the past few years with their 4,000 average crowd. I know there was COVID and whatever you want to use as outside statistic, but like 4,000 crowd numbers. They used to have 30,000 people a game, and now they're down to I think this year it's quite good. It's around 10,000. Not all crowd numbers are being released as quickly as you would like, but it's.
I wonder why, John. I've got some sort of suspicion on that.
So after the first 2 rounds, only about 5 of the crowd numbers are being released out of the.
No surprise.
11 games or something.
It's amazing how when it's not such a good crowd, it seems to be a bit trickier for them to release the crowd figure, John.
His whole assertion that after 5 days you can't back up the next day is absolutely ridiculous because, they just played in a World Cup in which you back up after 2 days. So 2 or 3 days. There were no week-long breaks, in the World Cup.
They have to do something, John, because they're not attracting these international stars we were talking about. Your Virat Kohlis, Joe Roots, Ben Stokeses, these sorts of players are not coming. So that means the onus is on our test side to, really, they have to bend over backwards here, John, to keep the BBL afloat. If they bail, if they just can't be bothered playing, John, if it's all too hard, well, the BBL's going to collapse, and that's not great for Cricket Australia, I wouldn't have thought.
The top earners, as I said, were bumped up last year to 420,000. It's not going to go up if no one plays and no one watches and no one attends. It's only going to go down.
And if you're Mitchell Starc and you can get 4.2 million to play in the IPL, why would you even bother with the Big Bash? Seriously.
Unless somebody like Major or there was some kind of investment in it. So what makes it worse is Tim Payne is actually the assistant coach for the Strikers. And
so
Travis Head and Alex Carey are two of the Strikers players.
So you think it'd be up to him to be doing everything possible to promote that competition and wanting the star players to front up for that competition?
Apparently both Travis Head and Alex Carey won't be available for the entire season. You would think that Tim Payne would be calling them and saying, dudes, come on, let's pump us up, let's get crowd numbers, let's get memberships, build up the thing, instead of saying, no, they shouldn't have to back up because they had a hard 5 days. Man, just...
Yeah, well, if Tim Payne gets his wish, John, and these test players pull out of the Big Bash altogether, the Big Bash is just going to continue to decline, and it'll be lucky to be alive in 5 years from now.
Exactly. And it was such a good thing when it came out. Finally on cricket, the Mitchell Johnson-Dave Warner saga continues, with Mitchell Johnson now being sacked by Cricket Australia from 2 speaking arrangements. They have now acknowledged that, yes, it was based on his original Dave Warner criticisms, his column, and he's been replaced. They feel that they said something like they feel like it was not a good look to the current players to let him to continue to do his speaking arrangements.
So they've sacked him from 2 speaking arrangements essentially for doing his job as a newspaper columnist, which is to entertain his audience, provide provoking discussion for the readers, and they've sacked him for that. I mean, how precious are Cricket Australia taking that step, John? If it was Rugby League, John, they'd be lapping it up. They'd be loving Mitchell Johnson, going, how good's this column? What about all the attention? What about all the publicity that column's giving? And it's been a flat summer this summer, John. Yeah. The Mitchell Johnson column has been the spark that this cricket summer needed.
3 weeks into it.
They should be praising him. They should be high-fiving him.
And they should have invited David Warner.
Yeah, exactly. But he should be... he shouldn't have to pay for beers or food anytime he goes into a cricket ground for the next 5 years because of all the publicity he's given them with this call-up.
But instead they've sacked him because... And I would really wonder... This is, again, one of those things where it makes the cricket players less likeable.
Sacked for doing his job, John. And, John, I mean... So cricket, they don't want their ex-players to generate publicity for the sport by writing controversial columns. They said there were 16,000 fans there on day one of that Perth test. You reckon there really were, John? Looked like more like 1,600 to me. So I think they fudged that. They were fudging the crowd figures because people are just losing interest, John. And here's an ex-player who's come forward and written a controversial column to get people in again, and they've just gone nut and sacked him from 2 speaking.
3 weeks into it, and we're still talking about it, and like it's nonsense to have sacked him, but them sacking him gives us more ammunition to make fun of Cricket Australia, I guess.
Let's go read Justin Langer's column, John, where he just praises everyone all the time and says how good everybody is all the time. That'll make for great reading, won't it? We won't fall asleep halfway through reading that column.
See, I don't even know if he's written another column, but I know Mitchell Johnson, since his original column, has written at least one more column.
Yeah, of course we do.
So, somebody's got to get into the marketing team at Cricket Australia and be like, what are you doing, man? You need to jump on this. I like,
It's censorship.
They've
censored him.
If this was the UFC... one of the most horrific things that's ever happened in the UFC is leading up to Conor McGregor-Khabib Nurmagomedov fight, when Conor McGregor and 40 of his boys ran down and attacked the bus, threw a dolly through the window, and, Rose Namajunas lost her championship in the card because of that, because she was so rattled. People were removed from the card because glass cut their eyes, stuff like that. It's got the famous Khabib Nurmagomedov soundbite, send location. And Dana White came out and was like, it was horrible, should never happen, police, like, it was never happened, Conor McGregor was charged, all that kind of stuff. When the Khabib and Conor fight was actually coming up, what did they use as the promotional? They used the footage of Conor throwing the dot in there.
Of course they did.
That's all you saw for weeks leading up to it. Fight announced, Conor will fight Khabib. Here is a whole bunch of footage. Send location. You know, like, that's good marketing. This Mitchell Johnson getting sacked and trying to be blackballed by the Cricket Australia is beyond ridiculous.
So now that means the next player who's thinking about writing anything remotely controversial, they won't do it now because they'll know they'll get ostracised by Cricket Australia. They'll be ousted. They'll be outcasts. So you wouldn't do it. So what does that mean? That means that ex-players are now not going to say what they really think, and their media columns and commentary is just going to be boring.
Yes, anything that causes self-censorship in the media is bad.
Yep, Rugby League would be embracing it.
Absolutely.
They'd be lapping it up.
They love it. It'd be in every single promotional material. It'd be that thing where it's like, bang, and the headline would appear on the ads and everything.
Tell you what, John, we've got 3 major sports in Australia at the moment. The NRL, the AFL and cricket. In 10 years' time, it's looking like we're probably only going to have 2. Yeah. And you know which 2 I'm talking about. It doesn't take Einstein.
Just imagine this, right? SCG tests. Dave Warner is returning to the SCG for his retirement. On the ads trying to sell tickets, can he prove Mitchell Johnson wrong? Mitchell Johnson will be commentating for Triple M. It should be like his face should be everywhere. You know, like it should show old footage of when Mitchell Johnson did stuff, chirping at the opposing players and stuff like that, and rattled them. Can he rattle Dave Warner? Buy tickets now to find out. Instead, it's Mitchell Johnson's barred. We're going to keep it quiet, guys.
You should be running Cricket Australia's PR, George.
Yeah, for sure. I'd use all the controversies. That's all I would use. But that's pretty much all for cricket this week. Always the complete nonsense. Well done on all the guys who got paid in the IPL. Seriously.
Yeah.
Go get your bag, boys.
Yeah, good on you.
Can't give you any criticisms for it.
Yeah, well done.
On to Rugby League and so the Jarome Luai thing has triggered a spate of all the major signings. So Aiden Fanua-Blake's going to the Sharks. That came out of left field.
Did, John, that blindsided you a bit, didn't it?
Okay.
But it sounds like, from what you were saying, John, as a Dragons man, you feel like you might have dodged a bullet on that one. Well, you didn't sound too keen on the idea.
I didn't think a 4-year, $4.5 million deal was a good idea. Any team would be lucky to have Fanua-Blake. He's one of the best forwards in the comp, but there was always the risk of compassionate grounds. But they tabled that 4-year, $4.5 million deal, and the Sharks tabled a 4-year, $4.5 million deal. Reported. And the Sharks, out of nowhere they came. They weren't even in the conversation. It was Bulldogs, Tigers, Dragons. Bulldogs, Tigers, Dragons. Bulldogs, Tigers, Dragons. Sharks. What? And unfortunately, Dearden is not the Bulldogs' answer to their halfback dilemma because he signed a 5-year agreement with the Cowboys to stay at the Cowboys, which is apparently he's taking a big upgrade to stay there. So that's the second best half now off the market.
So I wonder who this mystery man is that you're talking about with the Bulldogs now, John.
I can't wait till they get back from holidays so I can poke that a little bit more if they haven't signed.
It'd have to be someone under contract, wouldn't it, somewhere?
For sure. It must be. Yeah. Maybe it's Ben Hunt.
I hope not, John.
I hope it is. I won't get rid of him.
I bet you do.
And you know, another half. So it's the week of the halves. Junior Amon is set to be deregistered by the NRL, which I think is fair. He's, as I said, when he's, what is it called? His sentence came in, I believe he should be deregistered, have to serve out the sentence, and then come and redeem himself. Just because he's on a imprisonment in the community or whatever the weirdness was.
2-year intensive corrections order.
Yeah.
And 300 hours of community service.
Just because he's under that doesn't mean he should be playing the NRL, in my opinion. He should go and serve his time. He's done his crime. He's got to serve his time, and then he can come back afterwards and redeem himself. And I'm all happy to forgive after the punishment. What it does do is it causes massive problems for the Dragons, which we'll get to. I added yesterday a thing about this.
Yeah, so he's found guilty over a hammer attack on a tradesman that occurred in November last year.
Yeah.
So
so the Dragons kept him, stood him down when he was found guilty. Pending sentencing, the sentencing came in as whatever the weird thing is that he's got, and then the Dragons seemed to be that they were going to let him play, and the NRL has now stepped in and said, no, we're going to be deregistering the contract. They've sent the notice, and the Dragons have however many days to reply or whatever it is, but looks like Junior Amoun's out. And continuing on with the halves, the Panthers are saying they won't let Jarome Luai go early. However, he has been skipping training.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mysterious one, isn't it? But yeah, the chief executive, Brian Fletcher, he's shut down any idea that Luai could go to the Tigers a year early in 2024, John. He told Nine News Sydney, quote, that under no circumstances would Luai be playing in any colours other than Penrith next season. So we're just waiting on this confirmation from the Tigers, an announcement which will happen after this 10-day cooling off period expires. So, I mean, you never know with these things, John. If Luai keeps skipping training, if something like this keeps becoming difficult, then it's funny how quickly things can. I mean, the same thing we've talked about before. The same thing happened with Des Hasler at the Bulldogs, John. Was signed to join the Bulldogs in 2013. But it got brought forward to 2012 because Manly had enough of him trying to coerce other players into joining him at the Bulldogs. So if Luai kicks stones for a little while, doesn't come to training, if they think it's too much of a distraction, what he's doing, they might just go, right, stuff this, see you later.
So apparently on
you never know.
On Monday or Tuesday, so our last episode was...
Monday.
Right, yep, so Monday he didn't turn up to training. That was the news that came up. He got somebody to call them and say he was too angry with the club to come to training. Dude, you're an adult. Okay, first of all, you call your work and you tell them that you're not coming.
Yeah.
You don't get your friend or your mum or whatever, whoever the hell it was, to call your work and say you're not coming because I'm too angry at you because of your treatment. And then I saw yesterday and today, I believe, he hasn't come to training either. He's a no-show at training. Today is their last training session of the year and he's a no-show.
That's the thing, John. If he goes to them, and it seems like it's on the cards, John. If he goes to them and says, I'm miserable here, I don't want to be here anymore, what are they going to do, John? Do you really want to keep somebody who doesn't want to be there?
It's all about the salary cap, right? So if there's nobody to replace him with, like they don't need anybody to replace him, they've got Jack Cogger there. Jack Cogger's gone. So if they've got someone to slot in who can complement Nathan Cleary perfectly, I supported, I know it's like bias, but, I was actually a Steelers fan at the time, but I supported the Dragons holding on to Gordon Tallis and making him sit out the year.
So you were a Steelers fan before, and then the joint venture, and you became, okay.
So I think that if I was the Panthers and I didn't need the salary cap space and I had someone ready to go, I would make him sit out the year. I wouldn't let him play in reserve grade even, because the behaviour of like having tantrums and acting like a child and not coming to work and not participating in stuff like that, it deserves a response, and the response shouldn't be, okay, tantrum, you're having a tantrum, so I'll let you go. You can have your candy. You don't give kids candy just because they're having a tantrum. They have to learn the lesson, don't have tantrums. And it's terrible for Jarome Luai. But right now he just seems like he's having a big tanty. He's in the middle of the shopping mall kicking and screaming and laying on the floor screaming about how he wants some, I don't know what modern candies are, some Smarties.
And we were talking about how good a week it was for the Tigers. Sorry, producer John just started laughing. It made me laugh. We were talking about how great a week it was for the Tigers. Their best week since winning the premiership in 2005. They got rid of that terrible CEO and terrible chairman and terrible board. And then they signed Jarome Luai, the best available playmaker on the market. But this is a bit of a warning to his future employer as well, John. When things aren't going his way, this is how he acts. This is how he responds to it. And so the Tigers have got to be wary of that.
I would be super spiteful if I was the Panthers in this regard. Not block him on social media spiteful, but seriously making him sit out the year spiteful. Because I wouldn't want him going to another team and playing against me earlier than what his contract was. He's contracted with me. And as much as players want, I'm a little bit... I don't really like it how clubs can let players go and players can't leave. I don't really like it. I know you sign a contract. Contract is contract. Contract is weighted in the favour of club, and that's just how it is. I don't like it, right? But you don't behave like this. In a professional environment, as an adult, you don't act like an idiot. And if I was the Panthers, I would really be spiteful about it and be like, all right, man, screw you, don't come to training, don't care, sit at home, because if they let him go early, they're probably going to have to pay some of his salary anyway. Sit at home, we're going to have to pay you anyway. Do nothing. Go and find your own.
But then do you think he's being rewarded by being paid for doing nothing?
But he won't be training. He'll have to go and pay, I can't remember who it was. It might have been Paul Gallen, actually. No, he wasn't suspended. It might have been Wendell. I can't remember who it was. When somebody was suspended, they had to pay their own personal trainer, and they were seen and taken photos of down in the park and stuff like that, You don't get access to the Panthers' strength and recovery coaching.
And I guess it's not something that his future employer would... they wouldn't be too happy about that. Their player sitting out for a year, their star signing sitting out for 12 months before joining the club. They wouldn't like that at all. They want him playing this year.
So Jarome Luai can then be an adult, approach the Panthers, speak to them civilly, and say, obviously it's not working, let's work something out. Bring in the Tigers, and then we can talk about all right, you can go early. We're not going to pay any of your salary cap, and you go on fully under the... We're not going to pay any of your salary, you go fully under the Tigers now, and Tigers might go, all right. But to have tantrums and get your mum... I don't know if it was your mum, but somebody to call up and say, he's grumpy, he's not coming to work today, it's just not good behaviour, man. And, seriously, that kind of behaviour needs...
Yeah, I think he's 26 years old.
Yeah.
Come on, mate! You're not 10 years old here.
And it's setting a precedent for. He's a senior player at the Panthers as well. He'll be a senior player at the Tigers. It's setting an example and a precedent for those junior players.
Yeah, I think it's a watch this space on this story, John. I know Brian Fletcher's adamant that Luai will be at the Panthers in 2024. I'm not so sure about that one. I think watch this space. We could see movement on this in the new year for sure.
I think so.
Before round one.
Yeah, everyone's on holidays now, or going on holidays as of tomorrow, or today. So I'm sure we won't see anything for the next 2 weeks. Anyway, these constant NRL promotional issues in Vegas, though, is it's becoming beyond a joke now.
Yeah. So John, we had this situation where. So they've sent a bunch of players over there. We talked about Aaron Woods being sent over there. They've also sent Billy Walters over there, Campbell Graham, and Spencer Leniu, who's about to join the Sydney... Well, he has now joined the Sydney Roosters.
Yeah.
So, John, they've sent these players over there to promote this season-opening doubleheader in Las Vegas in early March. But they've sent Leniu to a rugby union club, John.
Yeah.
How it's not as if there were
run a clinic in Utah. Wow. In Utah, where there is four rugby league teams.
It's regarded as the most rugby league mad state in the US, Utah. So it's not as if there were no rugby league clubs to send him to.
There's 4. Instead they sent him to a rugby union club to run a clinic. Why would they not have done a rugby league combine where they invited all 4 of the Utah rugby league clubs to one area and said, here's a big, these are, Spencer Lenny is not a superstar, but he's a pretty good player. He's going to come and tell you about what it is like playing in the best rugby league competition in the world. Rugby league players.
It's unbelievable, John. And the Utah Rugby League Association took to social media to blast the NRL's move, writing on Instagram, disappointed with the NRL coming to Salt Lake City and running a clinic with a rugby union club. Interested to know what he taught them. That's a fair question. We have 4 youth teams here in SLC that are playing in our Winter Nines tournament. As you said, John, the 4 teams.
Yep.
But NRL rather go to a rugby union club and not the youth rugby league teams. Wow, none of our community will come and support your games in Vegas. Way to grow the game, NRL.
Yeah, and
so there you go.
So they went to Salt Lake City. So it's 4 in Salt Lake City. I thought it was 4 in Utah, but Salt Lake City alone. They were in Salt Lake City, and they didn't go to the rugby league clubs, of which there are 4.
Well, there might be 4 in Utah as well. It's hard to know. I don't know a whole lot about. I wouldn't have a clue where Salt Lake City is in relation to Utah. Whether
Utah is the state and Salt Lake City is the
capital.
Okay,
so there'd be 4 teams in
that one city of that state.
In Salt Lake.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Utah's the Mormon state.
Right. Okay. Is that Trump territory?
I'm
not sure.
Yeah, I think it is actually.
Might be. Yeah, right. Okay.
So the Utah Rugby League Association has, I'm just looking them up, 2.6K followers. Yep, they're really active. They had games like last week on the 10th. They could put up some footage of a match. Honestly, just this is beyond ridiculous. Again, who's in charge of this?
And John, this wasn't the only gaffe. A week prior, Woods and Graham appeared on an NFL halftime show where both TV hosts, and I said this a while back, John, that this would be an issue that would come up. Both TV hosts referred to the sport as rugby instead of rugby league. Social media erupted with complaints, John, as they always do.
Of course they do. Well,
about the hosts not doing their research, but others took aim at the players for not correcting them. I think you should correct them, John. I think you should. If you're a rugby league player on that show, you just respectfully say, look, I know you've referred to it as rugby, but rugby is rugby union. Our game is rugby league.
Apparently, I've heard this before. It's only in Australia are we really tribal about that, though. Like in other countries, they don't get so narky about it. But I would say that is because only in Australia, when you have rugby league and rugby union, is rugby league the biggest sport. That's why we're so narky about it. Because in Australia, we don't want to be compared to that crappy little rugby union. So don't call us rugby.
Yeah.
Where in other countries, like, New Zealand, you call rugby league rugby. It's like, we're as good as them. Yeah. So even the 4, get this right, the rugby league, Utah Rugby League Association teams that they could have visited are the Broncos, the Roosters, the Seagulls, and the Storm. So they even have names of the. They could have gone there. They could, the Roosters are playing in Spencer Lenny.
Yeah, so
from
Lenny,
the Roosters. They could have created you have these partnerships in international sports where it's this is our sister team, and they could have created such a thing. They could have really gone deep into this. That's what I said. The NRL, this is a marketing exercise to grow rugby league in America. They could have gone there. They could have sent Roosters representatives to the Roosters, the Utah Roosters, and said, let's do a player swap every year in the off seasons.
Yeah.
Let's send some of your guys over to train with us, and we'll send some over to train with you.
Yeah. And I think you said the Broncos are one of those teams. So Billy Walters is there too. Could have gone to the Broncos.
And Seagulls, Sea Eagles.
Yeah, close enough. Aaron Woods could have gone there. Yeah.
I couldn't believe this when I saw it, man. I was like, that is the fact that because Vegas is like a 7-hour drive from Salt Lake City, something like that, 7 hours 20 minutes, something, or a flight, an hour flight. These guys they're not playing in Utah. They're playing in Vegas, in Nevada. So they went to a different state from where the game is, and didn't go to the place in America. They went to a state where the rugby league is biggest out of everywhere in America and didn't go to the rugby league things. It is the craziest thing rugby league has ever done.
Yeah, it's up there, isn't it? It's up there. When you really think about it and when you just take a moment to process that, it is...
Yeah.
Like, I just praised rugby league before and said they embraced the controversy, whereas cricket, censor their ex-players, apparently. But rugby league clearly have other problems.
Yeah. Research.
Research. Incompetence is an issue for rugby league, even though they do embrace the controversy better than cricket.
I couldn't believe this when I read it. I was so disappointed because if that it's a perfect situation to go there and go, you've got 4 teams, we've got 4 teams. Hell, 3 of the teams that we brought over here, I don't know who the 4 teams are. It's a Rabbitohs. Is it the Rabbitohs?
Oh, in the doubleheader?
Yeah,
I've got it written here, John. So the game will be on March 3 in Las Vegas. Manly will play South, and then the Roosters will play the Broncos.
Yeah. Yep. So South's could have joined with the Storm. We got 4 teams, and you've got 4 teams. We won't do 1 clinic, we'll do 4 clinics. And then we'll put on some different things. And while we're here, we've got our, community pathway guy over there. He's going to organise for some training swaps over the course of the year. When you're in your off season, you could send some of your kids down to Australia. Like a few of my friends' kids are coming back now from overseas soccer trips. They play soccer as kids here, and they've gone to England as part of their schooling or outside of whatever it is, soccer, to do some soccer camps in Europe with the EPL teams.
Yeah.
It's not actually, it's with the 3rd tier EPL teams or whatever, but, it's still the same thing. They could have arranged to send some of these kids as a off-season trip to Australia to experience the NRL. Taking them to games, got them into training. And they could have arranged to send some players from here or coaches over to Utah for the next 10 years and build the game over there.
I was going to call it an attention to detail issue, but even that's a bit of it. I mean, it's just common sense. It's not attention to detail.
It's just bizarre.
Yeah.
And instead they went, we'll go hang out with the rugby union dudes.
To call it attention to detail implies that there's some detail about it. There's not. It's just basic common sense. You send rugby league players promoting rugby league games to rugby league clubs, not rugby union clubs. It's just very basic.
They should make up for that and then invite. They sold 25,000 tickets or something to the game.
Give tickets to all the kids.
To all of them.
To all the kids who play for those clubs.
Let them come backstage, into the dressing room and stuff like that.
Yeah. That'd be the only way to make up for this horrible blunder, John.
Absolutely. There's no Las Vegas Rugby League teams, right? So they went out of the state for no reason to go to rugby union.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. But I've got something for you, right, that I want to get your opinion on.
Mm-hmm.
Have the Dragons become the new Dolphins? Because leading up to the first year of the Dolphins, Wayne Bennett, pursued a whole bunch of players and just couldn't get any of them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's Wayne Bennett. Now, Flanagan's got in charge of the Dragons, and this is what they missed out on. Jarome Luai, gone to Tigers. Tom Dearden, who they were chasing, ended up staying at the Cowboys. Adam Flanell-Blake's gone to the Sharks. Jack Wellesby was announced today, who's like the number 1 player, of the future in the English Super League, decided to stay at St Helens. Joey Manu hasn't been announced yet, going to be staying at the Roosters. Missed out on his signature.
And that's the thing, that the Dolphins are at least they've got an excuse, right? They're a new team. I mean, it's always going to be difficult for a new team to attract players because they're establishing themselves, and they've got a good excuse, right? Yeah, they've got a good excuse. Whereas the Dragons have missed out on some key targets there. It's disappointing, John, and I guess the issue is when you're being overlooked for the Tigers, given the state that they're in. That's a real worry. That's why I was saying, I've said it quite a few times, John, I really think they need to just back Flanagan in here because there's no quick fixes here for where the Dragons are. The last thing I want to see is them panic after a couple of years of him. And it may be the case, John, that there's a very real chance that they you know, you'd have to say chances are they're not going to make the 8 in 24 or 25, John. And they need to persist with him because he'll have a plan. And he did it with Cronulla, John. He's got form on the board. He took Cronulla from down the bottom. That's the thing. There's a big difference between winning a premiership when you've actually had to take a team from down the bottom to the top, as opposed to just coming into a team that's a ready-made premiership team. Premierships bringing a team from the bottom to the top are much more difficult to win, and Flanagan's got one of those to his name in 2016. Won that one with Cronulla and beat Melbourne, who clearly one of the best teams of the last 25 years, John. 100%. So the fact that Flanagan's got that form on the board, they really need to just stick solid with him, John, and they need to just trust him. They need to back him in. He'll have a plan. He will have a... That's the thing. There's other teams, other clubs don't really... Like the Tigers are a prime example. They have not had a plan for a long time, John. Flanagan will have one. I'd imagine it's going to be... You know, he's just going to have to bide his time for a little while. He'll know that. It's going to be about, developing their juniors, blooding their young players. Hopefully a couple of really good ones come through the juniors. And having a good solid base of development there, but also making strategic player purchases on top of that to complement those local juniors. But this is going to take time. It's going to be a long-term fix. It's going to take him 4 or 5 years. And it's going to be a rocky road, John, because they haven't attracted these marquee players. So that means it's going to take more time, and they need to be patient.
So 2024, I think you're right. They're a massive danger of getting a wooden spoon actually in 2024. And if they sack Flanagan after that, it'll be the biggest mistake ever.
And if they get it, well, they've just got to suck it up, John, because that's where they're at.
So who they've lost isn't that bad because they didn't have very many people to begin with. So they lost Billy Burns, Jaden Hunt, Josh Kerr. That was a big loss because he was one of the Dragons' best players, but he's not the best player, just Dragons' good player. Alexander Lobb, Moses Mbai, Zane Musgrove, Jaden Sullivan, Aaron Woods. And now Amon, right? They gained Corey Allen, Tom Eisenhuth, Kyle Flanagan, Harme Sele, and Cyrus Stanley Trail. So nobody, right? Nobody. And they re-signed a few players. But 2024, this is the thing where it's important for the Dragons, I think, is off contract. They have Corey Allen, Talatau Amon, Josh Corrick, Jack DeBellin, Tom Eisenhuth, Matthew Fege, Max Fege, Francis Molo, Michael Molo, Connor Molason, don't know who that is, Ben Murdoch-Masilla, Cody Ramsey, Jackson Sherab, Tyrell Sloan, Jaden Silva, Moses Sully, Saviale Tamale, Alec Tuivake, and Paul Turner. So they've got 19 players off contract in 2024. So no matter what happens in 2024, Flanagan has, for 2025, a massive amount of money to spend on upgrades, re-signing, and buying people.
That's what I don't like, this salary cap ceiling rule, John, where you have to spend 95% of your salary cap every year. I don't like that. I think teams should be allowed to take a hit and go, no, we only want to spend 60 or 70% of it this year, and we want to, hold fire, keep our gun loaded, and then, really pounce when some marquee players come on the market. But they've got this rule now, John, where you have to spend 95% of your salary cap every year, and that's going to make it harder for a club like the Dragons, who've got those 19 players coming off contract, because no matter who's available on the open market, they're going to have to spend 95% of their cap. So that's the problem, John, because the players who become available in the next 12 months, they might not be the right ones the Dragons are looking for. And that's why it gets so hard for teams who are struggling to come good these days, because of that salary cap ceiling rule. They're not allowed to go, all right, we only want to use half our salary cap this year, and keep our gun loaded for when some better players come on the market. It makes it harder for teams to rebuild, John.
There is a large number of players off contract next year. Like the Dragons could buy Luke Keary.
Wouldn't be.
He's off contract.
I mean, he is having these issues, isn't he, with these concussions, John? Yeah, but that having been said, the Dragons would want Luke Keary in that team.
You look at some of the players that are off contract at the end of 2024, and it is people like Daniel Tupu and Luke Keary and Billy Smith Angus Crichton. Just at the Roosters alone, you know.
But if you want to look at the positive, John, I think you got the right man for the job,
I think
the
so
coaching
too.
job. I think Shane Flanagan is the man. So while you're not hitting these recruitment targets, I think you've got the right man there in Shane Flanagan in that job, and he will. I have faith in him, John, that he will have the Dragons a dominant club again. But it's probably going to take him. It's probably going to take him 4 or 5 years.
Like there's definitely like a team available in the players that are off contract. Like even Bradman Best is off contract at the Knights. There's an awesome pickup. There's a team there off contract at the end of 2024, and the Dragons look like they're losing the most amount of players. So I have a fear next year we'll get the spoon, which will be the first spoon in the history, and that like it's the Dragons. Like Dragons fans panic. Dragons management panic. They do.
But what they've got to do, John, is they need to look at, and I did have a look at their record. You know, I think their previous premiership before 2010 was in 1979, John.
Oh.
So that's one. That's one premiership in 1979. That's what 20. That's 44 years ago.
Yeah.
So one premiership in 44 years. So they need to look at that and go, well, maybe it's not just the coach here. Maybe, you know, we
a lot of things have changed.
So it's their West Tigers moment here, isn't it?
Absolutely. This
is their West Tigers moment to go, the coach is not the problem here.
Yeah.
But we can't panic every time here. We've got to trust someone. Because, you know, it's one premiership in 44 years. That's not... the coach is not to blame for that.
Yeah, definitely not.
There's a... And I know they've become the joint venture. I think they became the joint venture in 1999, I believe.
Yeah.
I think the first year they were a joint venture, they made the grand final.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So, so that's the thing, John. I mean, do you say they've only won one in the last 44 years? I mean, they're a new.
I'll tell you how it works.
If we disregard. Or if we just talk about the joint venture, John, it's been in existence for 24 years and they won one premiership. If you want to stretch it back further, it's 1 in 44.
I'll tell you how it works.
Yeah.
It works in a way whichever makes me look best.
Yeah, okay. So
what are you talking about, man? They've only it's 1 in 24 years.
It's a new club that came in 99. They made a grand final in their first year and they won a premiership in 2010.
But if you want to argue about something else, 11 in a row, baby.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't think anyone's doing it. I don't think even Penrith aren't going to get you on that one, mate.
And only it just depends on whichever is the best suited for me, whether we're a joint or in whatever argument I'm having throughout football.
So the bottom line is trust Shane Flanagan. He knows what he's doing, but you got to give it time and don't panic.
I really hope they do. I really, really hope they do. I know it's going to be a sucky year most likely next year.
Yes, you just got to cop that on the chin. There's no quick fix.
I wish Flanagan hadn't have talked about how he expects to make the finals next year. He should be more realistic, but I know he's going to talk his players up and give them confidence. Yep, so on to the AFL, and the Clayton Oliver saga continues as well. Mm-hmm. He's now been sent home from his training camp. They're away to deal with personal medical issues and won't be returning in the foreseeable future, actually.
Okay, right.
Yeah, he's got some health issues and with undisclosed personal issues.
We hope that he's okay.
Yeah, 100%.
We wish him well.
So yeah, he there was a whole thing about how he had issues with the club around his signing and his behaviour and his attitude towards training and even playing. Talked about him last week getting done for driving without a licence. He did have a seizure due to his ADHD medication, and then now he's just been sent home, and the club is supporting him in whatever he needs to get better, which is good.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully he gets the help that he needs, John. Hopefully he can address these personal issues that that he's been presented with, and we wish him and his family well at a difficult time.
Yeah, definitely. So that's all there is in the AFL, Clayton Oliver. But there's nothing in combat either because there's no UFC till the 13th of January. 1FC has a fight card this week, which is mainly kickboxing, then closes down over the holidays. Sometimes combat sports do awesome cards on New Year's Eve. And, you know, that's I wish the Ronda Rousey was on New Year's Eve, you know? I wish there would be another one of them. Like a New Year's Eve massive like Conor McGregor card or something like that.
That's where I know this is our last podcast before we have a couple of weeks off, John. That's the thing, isn't it? Like sometimes I know you talk about that New Year's Eve they'd have a good fight card. Sometimes on Christmas Day after you have your Christmas lunch, you sort of want something to watch afterwards.
Yeah.
And I know the NBL have been really good with that. They've had a game on Christmas night. I think the last couple of years maybe. I think the Big Bash have talked about having a game on that Christmas night, but I don't think they've done that yet, John.
Yeah, they're on Boxing. No, they're not on Boxing Day. They're over and then come back after the test. I'm pretty sure.
Right. Okay. So yeah, John. It is that thing where we all don't mind a bit of a break, a bit of a holiday, but you do still need something to watch in your festivities.
If you watch weekly release American TV shows, they have this habit that people in Australia don't understand where they'll stop for like a couple of weeks at a time. And I was really like frustrated with it years ago, like, whatever I'm watching, just say it's Friends, right? I didn't watch Friends when it was on, but just say it was Friends. It was the first thing that popped into my head. And then at the end of November, suddenly it'd stop for 3 weeks. And then a couple of weeks later, it'd stop over Christmas. And what it is, it's because I had to ask some of my American friends, what's the go with this? And they were like, because that holiday period, nobody watches television, but we watch sport. So, you watch all these sitcoms and stuff like that, and they'll have the Thanksgiving episode, and then the men will be watching the game. They always talk about the game. It's a football game they have, but there's also basketball games and stuff like that. And I really wish they would do this in Australia as well, because they do have games, like first grade professional games in America on Christmas Day, on Thanksgiving Day, on whatever other, like July 4th, what's it called? Independence Day. I really wish they'd do that here as well. We have the Boxing Day test, but I'd love to finish the Christmas lunch, we've unwrapped the presents, the kids are playing with their toys. All I do is sit around and talk to my family, and sometimes I don't want to do that. If there was a Big Bash game on, yeah, the game's on.
That's the thing, John. You do still want that. You need that hit of sport, don't you? Even when we're going into the holiday period, it's probably not as much of an issue these days where you got. There's just so many forms of entertainment out there, John. You got Netflix, you got Stan, you got Disney. I could go on and on. Amazon Prime, all that sort of stuff.
I don't want to watch a movie because I've had a few drinks. It's exhausting.
Exactly. There's only so many, reruns of Seinfeld or the Office that you want to watch. Yeah, so Shawshank Redemption.
Sport is a really cool thing. Like I can sit down. Got my buzz on because I've been sitting with the family and talking. I'm exhausted. I've had good food all day, and like I said, kids are playing with presents.
So you just
chuck on a cricket
want to
match.
watch a Big Bash game. Or something. It'd
be really good.
Yeah.
So that New Year's one is awesome. Like if they ever do, I would love to have a New Year's Eve UFC in Sydney. Because I would go to it'd probably be $1,000 for the worst tickets. So nothing much to report on combat sports. But on tennis, Nick Kyrgios keeps us alive.
Yeah, he does, John. Nick Kyrgios never goes on a Christmas break, John, that's for sure. So this back and forth with Boris Becker has just continued, John. I had an update for you on Monday, and now we're at about, day 5 of this Kyrgios Boris Becker back and forth. So this is the latest, John. Boris Becker said that Kyrgios should thank former players for being in the position he's in today. Becker said, "It's simple. You have to respect the past of our sport, in addition to publicly thanking the former players. You must be grateful that they existed. Without them, the tennis circus would not continue to exist. There have never been so many monetary prizes, and there has never been as much publicity as there is today. Why? For the legends of the sport, all these players make it possible for Nick Kyrgios not to play tennis all year round, and that even so, he can make a living with this sport." Kyrgios, as you can imagine, saw the comments and hit back on his favourite platform of Twitter, John. He said, "Bro, what? I've been one of the few players," he put the few players in caps, John, "that have brought millions more fans to the sport and have made more money for everyone," he posted. Netflix, in caps, "Don't remember seeing Boris on there." That's the show Breakpoint on Netflix he's talking about, John. I'd recommend that too if you're looking for something to watch over the Christmas break. The guy is ridiculous. I've made my career off the court without the help of others. He said that was that one.
Have you really, Nick?
And then he wasn't done there, John. He kept going. He said, "Not once have I taken slams away from Becker or any of these legends." He wrote on or X now, or as Elon calls it, John, Twitter, as we like to call it. Not once have I said I've impacted the game more. I've simply said that I've built my own brand and done it my way and brought fans. Apparently a slam finalist has no credibility. Good night, done with this convo, is what he said, John. And then he disappeared and... Oh, sorry, I'll let you go, John.
No, go.
And then another twist in the tail, John. Yevgeny Kafelnikov, the former top player himself, he's weighed in and given it to Kyrgios on Twitter as well. He said, this is what he said about Kyrgios. Dude hasn't won a slam in singles, and comparing his impact to game of tennis to one of the best legend in our sport, Boris Becker. I don't know if Yevgeny's English is the best, John, so just bear with me on that. What kind of weed is he smoking? Kafelnikov said via his formerly Twitter account. Kyrgios then responded with a fiery set of tweets.
Oh my God, I thought he was done with it. What happened, bro?
He instantly launched an onslaught against the Russian, calling him a potato. And then he said, this is what Kyrgios has said. He said, never ever said that he hasn't impacted the game champion. We have another potato on board. This is what Kyrgios said. He said that if you haven't won a slam, there is no credibility. Rublev, he puts in caps, making a reference to Andrei Rublev there, who's a top player from Kafelnikov's native Russia, who hasn't won a slam but is a top player. Lol, you old heads are all the same, Kyrgios said. Kyrgios concluded his statements on Kafelnikov, assuring him that he'd helped his tweet gain more traction. Kyrgios says, and I quote, "I'll also make sure your sad-ass tweet reaches more than 50,000 people. Sad guy," Kyrgios concluded on his Twitter account.
Good
so there
God.
you go, John.
Good God. Good God. Oh my God, Nick Kyrgios. Seriously, he is the epitome of the child. What do they call him?
Donald Trump.
The Gen V or millennial dudes or whatever.
I think it's what's the one? Oh, I'm a millennial, John. I'm trying to work out what the younger generation. Gen X or something.
Yeah, whatever he
Gen
is.
X, something like that.
He fully has just exactly like this kind of behavior where he believes like everything he does himself. Like I've done this and he hasn't had any help and stuff like that. Dude, without all the people that came before you, you wouldn't be where you are.
Yeah.
And he should go and look at things like exactly what we're talking about with like cricket and stuff like that. He continues what has been built, which is good. It's a good thing. Nick is good for the popularity of tennis, and he's lucky that there's no one there killing tennis in popularity, Tennis is a world game that could, in Australia, go the way of rugby union or cricket, there's no chance it will at this point in time. But no sport is sacred from that. And you can look at things like that, but then so the guys like, Becker and stuff also have to understand that they are maintaining popularity and relevance because of guys like Nick Kyrgios, though. Because if you look at something like rugby union, right? I don't know who the current famous rugby union players are. I fully don't know. There's that guy that signed with the Roosters. In Australia, I mean.
Yeah,
I don't know.
There's not many these days.
Yeah.
I think a batch of them have just retired, like Michael Hooper, etc.
If they had have continued the work that those previous guys like, Wendell Saylor and Lottie Takiri and Matt Rogers and which Campese it was, I can never remember which Campese.
David Campese.
Yeah, the rugby union one.
Yeah.
Nick Farr-Jones, like all those kind of
Yeah, Tim Horan, John Eales.
Yeah.
Michael Liner.
They built something. And the current crop could have continued that and maintained, and
Matt Burke, yeah,
back office as well could have maintained it. But without those people to build it up to that, they wouldn't have had anything to maintain. So Nick Kyrgios needs to understand that without those guys like Boris Becker, he wouldn't have what he has. Boris Becker needs to realise without the continuation, guys like Nick Kyrgios, Boris Becker would be irrelevant in Australia.
That's true, John. You make a good point there. It does go both ways. I sort of got this view, John, that, and we're talking about Nick Kyrgios at the moment, but you sort of think anybody who's on a platform like Twitter this often and just picking fights with other people all the time, it sort of just looks pathetic to me, John, that you got nothing better to do than just sling mud at, former greats of the game. Like, does Nick Kyrgios not have something better to do with his time?
He doesn't. He doesn't play tennis.
He's got a lot of money. He doesn't. That's true. He doesn't play tennis. He's a tennis player who never plays tennis.
There's no tennis on, so he can't commentate. He literally has nothing to do right now.
Yeah. So there's a pathetic look about that, John, about behaving in that manner, and that's anyone on social media who's on it that often and just taking pot shots at people, and I'm talking about anybody, let alone two greats of the game.
So it's one of those things, like actually you talk about where the Tigers had to realise it wasn't the coach, and this is the same thing. Like Nick, I remember ages ago, Michael Crocker was on the Footy Show, and Gus Gould said to him like, he was talking about how, because Michael Crocker's very exciting to watch and there's all these big hits and all this kind of stuff. And he said, but I just got to ask, why is it always when something bad happens, it's with someone and Michael Crocker?
Exactly.
And that's what Nick Kyrgios needs to look at. Why is it always someone and Nick Kyrgios? It's always, there's one common element, And so that's the thing that he needs to look at, both of them, neither of them should fight with each other, actually, because it's kind of sad. Like, Boris Becker should... I know we talked about, Mitchell Johnson and Dave Warner going at it, right? But Mitchell Johnson was using analysis of cricket to criticise Dave Warner. It had the element of the cricket. Nick Kyrgios is just talking crap about Boris Becker. It has no relevance on anything to do with modern tennis.
Yeah, and I will say this, John. Boris doesn't come out of it looking great either.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
You're right. He should just ignore Nick Kyrgios. Yeah. Just don't respond to him. Why would you give him oxygen? Boris should be old enough and wise enough by now to know to just ignore someone like Nick Kyrgios on Twitter.
It's be like, okay, man, in
Nick
real life...
Nick Kyrgios is like a teenage boy
what he should
in high school. That's what we're dealing with. Opened
Twitter, saw tweets from Nick Kyrgios, went, cool, back to real life. I'm going to get into this.
Most people would have, thick skin enough, in Boris's position, would have thick skin enough to just go, I don't need to dignify Nick Kyrgios with a response and not get in this back, because you're dragging yourself down to his level, Boris.
What's the thing,
you're right, it looks bad for Boris too,
If
John.
you argue with an idiot, they never argue with a fool, they'll always drag you down to their level or something is the thing.
Exactly. Boris needs to realise that he can't win this argument.
No.
Because Nick Kyrgios will just keep coming back for more.
Exactly.
And so the more he responds, the more he's just giving him oxygen. And Twitter is Nick Kyrgios' playground. Yeah. He's 28 years old. Boris Becker's in his 50s. It's not his playground.
I thought Nick Kyrgios was going to OnlyFans. Because OnlyFans operates exactly the same
we're doing that as well. He's a full-time social media operator.
The problem with OnlyFans is there's no app, so there's no push notifications. It's only web-based. Anyway, we got no other sports news because nothing else is happening. So it's the end of the year.
Finished the year on...
Honestly, guys, it's just our opinion.
Yes.
So the question this week is great. It's based on a conversation we had last few days ago.
After we came off on Monday. Yeah.
So it's who are the Donald Trumps of our favourite sports?
Okay.
So we picked a few sports here. We've got cricket, which we're both into, rugby league, which we're both into, MMA, which is my sport, and tennis, which is Dan's, and then anyone else we can think of.
Yeah, I've got another one. But
I got another one too.
Yeah, okay.
So let's kick off with cricket. Do you want to go first?
Yes, I'm happy to go first, Sean.
Go for it.
My nomination for the Donald Trump of cricket, Mitchell Johnson.
Brilliant. Not mine.
Trump had a lot of the world holding their breath, on edge and anxious when he was elected president in 2016 after beating Hillary Clinton in the election. In the same way that Johnson had the English batsmen holding their breath, on edge and anxious when he terrorised them in the 2013-14 Ashes series, taking 37 wickets and bowling so quickly that you could see fear in the eyes of the English. As we have come to learn in recent times, Johnson isn't afraid to speak his mind in the media, much like the 45th President of the United States.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. That's not the one that I picked. I actually picked Johnny Bairstow.
Yes, Johnny Bairstow.
Because
yes.
Donald Trump isn't famous for being a president, and he's not famous for being the head of The Apprentice. He's famous for having tantrums and blaming everything on something else. Which Johnny Bairstow, who was not a household name in world cricket, really, before the Ashes, is now famous for blaming everything on a stumping in one game in the Ashes.
It's a good one. I think we've both done well there, John. I think
on to Rugby League, which is an obvious one, but I'll let you go first again.
Okay. So rival Republican candidate Ron DeSantis, or as Trump calls him, Ron DeSanctimonious, attacked the former president over his, quote, daily drama. Latrell Mitchell is the same, John.
Of course.
In 2023, there was daily drama around Latrell. Wasn't chasing for players on the field, was having disagreements with Captain Cam Murray in team video sessions, caused Sam Burgess to walk out on the club as well because he felt Latrell was receiving preferential treatment. And he also pulled out of the Kangaroos squad with injury, John, only to then mysteriously play in the Koori knockout despite being injured.
Of course it's Latrell. Yes. There was no one else. That one was too obvious. But I just wanted to chuck in an honourable mention who goes to Ryan Madison,
yes,
who is very similar to Donald Trump in that he's the most selfish representative of a rugby league player. Donald Trump is the most selfish representative of an American president ever. Yeah. Ryan Madison famously walked out on the Tigers because he preferred to not be there. And then took a suspension instead of a fine at the beginning of this year, which is something that sounds like something Donald Trump would do.
Yes, it does.
So on to MMA.
Yeah, I'll leave this one in your corner.
There's only one. There's one and only, and there's only one it could be. It's Colby Covington.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, of course. I thought you were going to say Conor McGregor.
Yeah, but it's Colby Covington because he is Donald Trump. The guy has now built his whole personality around being Donald Trump's best friend, favorite MMA fighter. He constantly talks nonsense and promotes the conspiracy theories that Donald Trump does, using Donald Trump lines constantly, even so much as to, in his post-fight press conference at his recent loss, turned it into a rant about how the election was stolen.
And that was even after Trump had walked out of his fight, John.
Yes. So I was going to go Conor McGregor because he's Conor McGregor, but I thought, well, Colby Covington actually is Donald Trump. Or would be if he could be. Colby Covington is the first MMA fighter to ever appear in the White House when Donald Trump was the president. And so, tennis.
Tennis, yes, John. So, I think...
it's so obvious.
It's a pretty obvious one, John. Nick
Boris
Kyrgios.
Becker,
It's Nick Kyrgios. And even that tweet I was reading out before from Nick Kyrgios, John, where he said, sad at the end of his career. That's his Donald Trump reincarnated.
Pure Donald Trump.
So when Nick Kyrgios plays tennis, whether you love him or hate him, you can't look away. When Donald Trump speaks, whether you love him or hate him, you can't look away. They both love a feud which plays out on social media a lot of the time, John. Not exactly telling you anything you don't know there. Kyrgios has found himself embroiled in feuds with everyone from Boris Becker to Bernard Tomic to Leighton Hewitt to Piers Morgan to rapper Drake. While Trump has feuded with everyone from Meryl Streep to Arnold Schwarzenegger to Robert De Niro to Brad Pitt to Sacha Baron Cohen to Taylor Swift to Pope Francis to Kim Jong-un, John. God. There you go.
There's never going to be anyone else. I just wish Nick Kyrgios would do all of his tweets in capital letters like Donald Trump does.
He's getting there though with the sad at the end. He's getting there.
So who is your additional?
Okay, an additional, John. Given Trump's love for golf, I thought we needed to get a golfer into this discussion. John Daly. Oh. And it's because of his diet. So over the course of 18 holes of golf, Daly would have 21 cigarettes, 12 Diet Cokes, 6 packs of peanut M&Ms and no water, John. A typical Donald Trump dinner. A full McDonald's dinner of 2 Big Macs, 2 Filet-O-Fish burgers, and a small chocolate shake, a total of 2,430 calories.
Oh my God.
Trump reportedly loves Diet Coke like Daley and drinks 12 cans a day, the same number that Daley drinks in a round of golf. Trump also had the White House kitchen stocked with Lay's potato chips and Doritos.
But Nick Daly's funny. Donald Trump isn't. Well, he's kind of like, ha ha, funny. You laugh at his jokes because he might blow you up with a nuclear bomb. So I have American women's soccer player Megan Rapinoe.
Oh, yes.
So if you don't know Megan Rapinoe, you can go and look her up. She's attention-seeking. She's selfish. She's completely ignorant. She treats everyone like garbage. Everyone. There are so many photos of her, videos of her signing, like people asking for signatures and her like paying no attention and not signing properly. She doesn't care about anything or anyone except herself.
Oh, that doesn't sound like Donald Trump at all, John.
So much so, when she arrives places, she carries a speaker with entrance music for herself.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No way.
She has a Bluetooth speaker where she
God.
in her last game of soccer ever, which everyone celebrated finally, she went down injured in the first 6 minutes. And in the press conference afterwards, she said, there mustn't be a God because I was injured 6 minutes into my final game.
Oh, wow.
If you want to see someone who thinks the universe revolves around them, look at Donald Trump and Megan Rapinoe.
But you know how you said everyone celebrated her final game? Was that because she was
She's
finally
gone.
retiring and
they
no one
celebrated
would
to get rid of her?
People wouldn't have to put up with her anymore?
She's one of the people that said... One of the things she said is from next year, they should allow transgender athletes in professional soccer. And Riley Gaines has famously responded to her and said, yeah, that's because you won't be playing. That's why you don't care.
Like, that is selfish, isn't it?
She's like definitely the worst person to me. Honestly, guys, it's just my opinion, but the worst person in all sports, and perfectly suited.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah, there you go. There you go, John.
So that's honestly, guys, just our opinion. Bit of a fun one to end the year.
Yes.
And now it's time for the social media blower-uppers. Okay, so on the SmartB ad. There's some weird ones, okay? I just got to warn everyone. Fair warning, parental guidance recommended for the weirdness that's about to come out. Steve Lee on the SmartB ad promoting SmartB said, just saw the ads for Grant Denyer. Why can't you come up with something new instead of crap old shows?
I didn't know that Grant Denyer was on our podcast, John. Have I missed something?
Thanks, Steve. So we'll try not to promote Grant Denyer. Maybe he was commenting on the wrong thing. I don't know.
Yeah,
it was just bizarre. Then on the corporate box experience, win a corporate box experience for you in 17 minutes. Christina Luno replied, "Thank you." Thank you.
Thank you, Christina.
I told you, strap yourself in. It's getting weird. Most overrated player, Trey Lange said, where can I watch his full episode or show? So in every post, there is a link to the full episode or show.
Yeah, cool.
So jump on and watch it, Trey. Right. So if you remember last week, Dexter Ahoy...
he had a go at us, John.
Yes. So him and Matthew Jacobs was the guy who said Darren Watini leaves the leg.
Yeah, that was a good post, that one.
Yeah, they got into it, actually.
Oh, did they?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
So I'm not going. There's a very long conversation. I'm not going to read it all.
Yes.
Then I just give the basic gist of it. But also, guys, you need to calm down. We're very happy with the arguments, but you got to keep it civil.
Yeah.
Which we had to continually remind.
Got to be
these
respectful.
Guys. So the original comment last week was the one that was talking shit about blokes who train hard all their lives, and we've never played a game, so whatever. Matthew Jacobs replied, immediately calling Dexter Ahoy a goose. 5 hours a week of training, a 90-minute game once a week. Yeah, retire at 30. Yep, that's working hard all your life. You're a wanker. Sorry, how many lives do they save? All for 20K a week. What does a surgeon make? A bit less, I think. Again, you don't need to insult each other. And then Dexter replied, surely you don't believe what you just wrote. 5 hours a week of training to even get to that level. They're training when they're teenagers more than that. Then to maintain a spot in a team you have no idea. And their job isn't to save lives. Stupid comparison by a stupid man. Again,
that's personal.
Calm down, guys. You don't need to insult each other.
Subtle.
Yeah. 5 hours a week is wrong. I can tell you that.
Yeah, it's not 5 hours a week.
No, they have full-time jobs. The players have to arrive at... So
Get there early in the morning.
Yeah, it varies each week depending on game time because they have video sessions, they have weight training, they have recovery sessions from the previous games, stuff like that. It is a full-time job.
And they are under very high pressure to perform. Yes, they play the game only goes for 80 minutes, but they are under huge scrutiny.
Yeah,
under far more scrutiny than most people in the workforce.
Yeah, definitely. 100%.
Yeah.
Like, they can't even tweet stuff out without sometimes getting suspended. So, again, guys, love the conversations. Just, you don't need to call each other's wankers or stupid men. Like, just have the conversations. So then Sensei on the most overrated player again. Sensei did 3 comments, right? Mm-hmm. With NRL and even AFL, I don't get why they can't offer every player a base $120,000 yearly contract and maybe rep players get $180,000 a year base contract. Elite players get $240,000 a year base deal, but then per NRL game win, a player will get $10,000 to $15,000 per game, and if you lose a game, you don't get paid extra. These win bonuses can be paid by a pool of money by the NRL and not by the team's salary cap, so it does not encourage teams to lose games on purpose to save money having to be paid out for wins. He continued, strong. A player can easily live off $120,000/$180,000/$240,000 a year, even if they lose all 24 games a season. Hence why I said there has to be a minimal base salary in case some players don't play in any games or they play in a lot of losses. I think that's a terrible idea.
We appreciate the effort he's gone to and the feedback, but it just sounds very complicated, John.
Yeah. Players get paid what they're worth to the people that buy them, you know. And yes, some players are overpaid because teams have to pay them overs. But to pay, like, they have a minimum wage. You know, I don't know, I think the minimum wage is now $100,000. Actually.
Yeah, it might even be 120, maybe. I'm not 100% sure on that.
So
though.
for the top 30, there's a minimum wage, and then, yeah, like, they have a salary cap. I don't think the issue, again, this is on the most overrated player thing. I don't think there are any issues with the way people get paid. So I don't think this is a solution. And
there's no problem with players getting big money. They deserve that someone's willing to pay them that money. They deserve all the money they get.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then not necessarily related to the overrated topic that you're talking about, but something that's very interesting is there are 306 top players in the NRL, which is 17 players plus one, I think it means extra vest player in case of injury equals 18 times 17, ignoring players 19 to 30 in each team. Comparing players 1 to 306, which is 207 players, to the top 99 sum of that 207 might look much more less talented. But if you take the next best players in Australia, let's say ranked 500 to 999, then the 207 players are light and day above players 500 to 99. It's funny how individual talents decrease quite a lot from 99 to the next best 207 and then to the 500th to 999th best rated players. So I guess you're saying it goes kind of like top players, daylight, next lot of players, daylight, next lot of players, which is true. There is a massive drop in quality of football from first grade to New South Wales Cup. Massive drop. And that's one of the reasons why they don't expand as rapidly as some fans and New South Wales Cup teams want them to, because there just simply isn't the quality of players there.
Yeah. Yeah, well, he talks about, the top, 306 top players in the NRL. Obviously, there's going to be a big difference in ability between number 1 and number 306.
Yeah.
And then, what comes after that, which is in these lower tier competitions, there's going to be another jump again. So, yeah, I guess I'm just not sure what the solution is here. I mean, what's the
Well, there's no suggestion or anything, and it was off topic as well. But
anyway, thanks for the feedback.
Yeah, it's good thing. Maybe we'll talk about different rugby league competitions in the future. And honestly, guys, it's just our opinion. I'm sure if you look at the quality between the New South Wales Cup and the Utah Rugby League, there'll be a massive drop as well.
Yeah, but they still should have gone to the Rugby League.
Yes, exactly. So, Sengai Sensei, big commenter, responding. Remember, if you remember last week, Crazy Praying Mantis said Wayne Bennett did nothing at St George. Sensei responded to that and said, "Didn't Benny win the 2010 Grand Final against the Roosters as the Dragons head coach?"
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a bit of an oversight, that one.
Yeah, that's why I said that Crazy Praying Mantis comment was heaps funny. Sensei again, on episode 36, asking us a question. What do you think about in BBL and IPL T20 cricket, them introducing a new rule baseball-like where the coach can remove a struggling batsman who is not scoring much runs, like the way a manager walks to the mound and removes a struggling pitcher in the MLB? I don't think they need to do that. I think they can get a message down to tell them to let themselves get out if they really needed to do that.
Well, they could just retire Hurt if they really wanted them to, and then, they could retire Hurt, come off, and go again. Go again with have a new batsman come to the crease.
The pitchers in the MLB, you're allowed to rotate as many times as you like, I believe. Because my uncle used to pitch for Australia A. One of the things about baseball is it happens to cricketers, but not as much. Baseball is actually way worse. The lack of resistance when throwing the ball as they do causes a lot of damage to your shoulder. Like a lot of damage to your shoulder. And people have dislocated shoulders and stuff throwing baseball pitches. So that's why if you're struggling, you have to take the pitcher off because it's risk of injury.
But I like that Sensei is having a bit of a think about it and thinking deeply about it. I mean, there are times where I watch cricket and sometimes I think that, teams too often will just stick with their batting order because, they feel like that's their batting order and they won't think outside the square a little bit. Like there's times where you sort of think, like that World Cup final, John, was an example. I remember Australia lost 3 really quick wickets in their run chase, and then it was rescued there by Travis Head and I think it was Labuschagne was the other one who rescued Australia. And I just thought to myself at that time, should Australia, because at that time the bowlers were right on top, the ball was moving around, there was just a period of the game where the bowlers had the momentum. In sport, it just happens. And I just thought, should they put their tail enders out there now to see off this period?
Yeah.
And then bring in save their recognised batsmen for later on when the bowlers are no longer on top and no longer have the momentum. So there are times where I think like that about cricket as well. They need to think outside the square a bit more, I think, at times, with changing up their batting order and adapting it to the situation of the game at the time.
Yeah, I think adaptation is a really high-quality skill from coaches and players. And you see it happen where plan A is not working and they just keep trying it. It happens in the state of origin this year in New South Wales. Plan A wasn't working and nobody... The coach, the players, the playmakers, the captain called an audible and said, we've got to change something here to plan B. And I like the fact that Sensei's putting some thought into how to make the BBL and T20 even more exciting than it has the potential to be.
Yeah, and even in Test cricket, I know Sensei's talking about the BBL and T20 there, but even in Test cricket, a lot of people don't like the idea of the night watchman, John, but I like the idea. I think it's smart. I think... Don't expose your good player late in the day when they're vulnerable and the bowlers are moving the ball around in the dimming light. They've probably got, a lot of the time, bowlers have a new ball at the end of the day because the 80 overs is done. So it's a vulnerable time for a batsman to come in late in the day. So I get why they send in a night watchman, and I get totally if one night watchman gets out, put another one in it. Continue to protect the batsman. Put 2 or 3 night watchmen in if you have to save your batsman from being exposed late in the day.
Yeah, so tomorrow they
come out, a fresh day, fresh start, and I like the night watchman.
Yeah, me too. So on the best and worst cricket commentators, Sensei again. I think he must have...
Sensei loves it, John.
So first Commentos is the first comment he did, because first comment. Then asking thoughts on females being main commentators in men's Test 50 over internationals, T20 international games. That's question 1. And then at 2 minutes and 12 into the discussion, Junior Mark Waugh, comes across very negative and moody and pessimistic when he commentates. I've heard many viewers say this about Junior.
Okay, so first part of that, John. Thoughts on females being main commentators in men's tests, 50 over internationals, T20 and national games. No problem with it, John, as long as what they're saying, as long as they're making commentary worth listening to. I've got no problem with it, John. And Isha Gua certainly does that.
Yeah.
There are a couple of others, John, who maybe don't, but Isha Gua, I think, is a really good commentator, John.
Some of the female commentators in Rugby League are really good. I don't like when they put a female in there for equal opportunity employment.
No.
They have to be good.
I wouldn't put Isha Gua in that category. Yeah. I think Isha Gua is really good.
To be honest, I don't care who's commentating. If the commentating is good.
Yeah, makes no difference.
Like, you could have an orc commentating for all I care. You know?
Yeah, as long as that makes sense as a commentator and the commentary's good, I've got no problem with it.
Exactly.
As for Mark Waugh, so that's sensational, Mark Waugh, pessimistic and moody. I look at him differently, John. Maybe I'm a bit biased because he was my favourite player as a kid. But I love his refreshing honesty. He just calls a spade. He calls it as he sees it. I really enjoy his commentary. But yeah, I mean, everybody's going to have a different interpretation.
Absolutely.
Right?
I think you need to jump on Twitter/X and get into it with Sensei.
Yeah. I might talk to you about that, John. I might need to create an account, I
think. just so you can bag Sensei and he can respond. That's it for the social media blower-uppers. Thanks a lot to everybody. Again, please, guys, keep it civil. We don't want to delete comments. Sometimes we do have to hide comments on Facebook, which means they don't get deleted. But only the original poster can see them. But we don't want to have to delete or ban people. We want conversation, and thanks, Sensei, for all of your comments. Keep them coming, and we'll respond to them. As for housekeeping, don't forget to sign up SmartB for the tip of the day. Yes, it went out today. I can't remember what happened yesterday, but yeah, keep sign up and get the tip of the day. There'll be Rugby League tips and everything coming as well. From January, there'll be a whole bunch of tips of the day. You can sign up and choose which sport you want tips from, and you'll get tips every day, as well as news and stuff like that too. But yeah,
awesome.
Copper box competition. Sign up and win a chance for you and 17 mates to go to a basketball, cricket, or rugby league game in Sydney. Sign up and you get the chance to win 2 tickets to Subversion, the premier Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu event in Australia. The SmartB Racing update, which I mentioned last time that was going to start this week, we realised we're all on holidays. Producer John is actually going away, so we were like, wait. Let's start it next year. Yeah. So SmartB Racing update with Bryce and God damn it, I should have written his name down.
So Bryce is doing it with someone else?
Yeah.
Right. Cool.
Josh.
Okay,
so
cool.
All your racing news, information, tips, stuff like that. Cool. It will be released every Friday in time for the weekend racing.
Cool.
So now you'll be able to listen.
Looking forward to listening to that one, John.
You'll be able to listen to SmartB 3 days a week from now on next year. And don't forget to follow SmartB app on all social media so you can get those kind of updates. We usually post the tip of the day, but I think we've forgotten to do it the last couple of days. But that's all right. Sign up and you can get it anyway.
So yeah, absolutely, John.
All
absolutely.
Right. Everyone, Merry Christmas. Have a good New Year. This is our last episode for the year. We'll be back in the week of the 8th of January.
Yeah, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you, John, and to producer John as well. Thanks for all your help throughout the year. It's been great fun coming in here doing this. So thanks very much for having me, and can't wait for next year.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
It's going to be a big year of sport. Well done, Dan, and goodbye, producer John.
Bye.